If you're a veteran, or you have a loved one who served, there's something happening right now in Washington that you cannot afford to ignore. A new tax law proposal tied to Donald Trump's economic plan could have an unexpected side effect, cutting off or reducing food assistance benefits for thousands of veterans across the country. We're talking about programs like SNAP, EBT, and other support systems that many former service members rely on to put food on the table. For years, these benefits have been a lifeline, especially for disabled veterans and those on fixed incomes. But under the changes being pushed forward, eligibility rules could tighten, leaving many to fall through the cracks. So what exactly is in this tax law? How does it connect to food benefits? And most importantly, what does it mean for veterans and their families moving forward? Let's break it down in simple terms and show you what's really at stake. Before we dive deep into this critical issue, I want you to do something for me. If you're a veteran, know a veteran, or simply care about how our country treats those who served, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. The story begins with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, signed into law in December 2017. While most people focused on income tax rates and corporate tax changes, buried within this massive piece of legislation were provisions that could have far-reaching consequences for veteran families who rely on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, commonly known as SNAP or food stamps. But here's where it gets complicated. The connection between tax law and food benefits isn't immediately obvious, which is exactly why so many veterans might be caught off guard. To understand how this works, we need to talk about something called the Standard Utility Allowance. I know that sounds like bureaucratic jargon, but stick with me because this is where the rubber meets the road for veteran families. When SNAP calculates how much food assistance someone qualifies for, they look at income, expenses, and utility costs. The Standard Utility Allowance is essentially a way for states to estimate utility expenses without requiring families to provide detailed utility bills every month. It's supposed to make the system more efficient and ensure that people who need help can access it without drowning in paperwork. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act changed how certain utility expenses are treated for tax purposes, and these changes ripple through to SNAP eligibility calculations in ways that could reduce or eliminate benefits for some veteran families. The law altered deductions for state and local taxes, including property taxes, which in some states affects how utility allowances are calculated. When utility allowances go down, SNAP benefits can go down too, or in some cases, families might lose eligibility altogether. Now you might be thinking, how many veterans could this actually affect? The answer might surprise you. According to recent data, approximately 1.4 million veteran households receive SNAP benefits. These aren't just unemployed veterans, many are working families where military service didn't translate into high-paying civilian careers, elderly veterans on fixed incomes, or disabled veterans whose service-connected injuries limit their earning capacity. We're talking about families who served our country and are now struggling to put food on the table, and they could see their assistance reduced because of a tax law that most people don't even understand. The cruel irony here is that many of these veterans might not even realize what's happening. Unlike a dramatic policy announcement that makes headlines, these changes work through the complex machinery of bureaucracy. A veteran family might simply receive a notice that their SNAP benefits are being reduced or terminated, without any clear explanation of why. They might think they made an error on their application, or that their financial situation somehow changed when it didn't. The connection back to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act isn't something that would be immediately apparent to someone navigating an already confusing system. These aren't abstract policy discussions, they're real families facing real consequences. And here's what makes it even more frustrating: the veterans affected by these changes had no voice in creating them. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act wasn't debated as veteran policy. It wasn't examined for its impact on military families. The provisions that could affect SNAP eligibility were buried in hundreds of pages of tax code changes, and the veteran community wasn't part of the conversation about potential unintended consequences. But wait, there's more complexity to this story. The impact isn't uniform across all states. Because states have flexibility in how they implement SNAP policies and calculate utility allowances, some states might find ways to protect veteran families from these effects, while others might not. This creates a situation where identical veteran families in different states could have completely different outcomes. A veteran in California might keep their benefits while a veteran with the same circumstances in Texas might lose them, all because of how their state interprets and implements federal policy changes. This brings us to a critical question: what can be done about it? The first step is awareness, which is why videos like this one are so important. Veterans and their advocates need to understand what's happening so they can prepare and respond. If you're a veteran receiving SNAP benefits, you need to be extra vigilant about notices from your state SNAP office. Don't ignore anything that looks like bureaucratic mail. It could contain information about changes to your benefits that you need to respond to quickly. More importantly, this is where political advocacy becomes crucial. Veterans organizations, from the American Legion to Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, need to be pushing Congress to address these unintended consequences. When lawmakers passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, they probably never intended to reduce food assistance for veteran families. But intent doesn't matter if the effect is families going hungry. There are ways to fix this through targeted legislation that could protect veteran SNAP benefits from these indirect effects of tax law changes. The broader lesson here is about how policy works in America. We often think of issues in separate boxes: tax policy over here, veteran policy over there, anti-poverty programs in another category. But in reality, these systems are all connected, and changes in one area can have unexpected effects in others. Veterans who fought for our country deserve better than becoming collateral damage in unrelated policy battles. As we wrap up this discussion, I want you to think about what this means for how we treat veterans in America. We love to say we support our troops, but supporting veterans means more than just saying thank you for your service. It means paying attention to policies that affect their daily lives, even when those policies seem unrelated to military service. It means holding our elected officials accountable for the full impact of legislation, not just the intended effects. If you found this information valuable, please share this video with others who need to know. Subscribe to stay informed about issues affecting veterans, and let me know in the comments if you've experienced changes to your SNAP benefits, or if you have questions about how these policies might affect you or veterans you know. Remember, staying informed isn't just about protecting yourself, it's about protecting the entire veteran community. Together, we can ensure that those who served our country receive the support they've earned and deserve.